Alright, what's up fight fans? You're watching Optic Control MMA. I'm Dan. Today we're going to be talking about Jacare versus Kevin Holland. Middleweight fight coming up on UFC 256. Interesting matchup this one. Originally it was going to be Kevin Holland facing Jack Hermansson, but we all saw that Kevin Holland tested positive for COVID. I've seen an interview with him though, he didn't seem to have any issues with it. I believe he's now all clear, so he'll be fighting Jacare. And Jacare was originally supposed to be fighting Vettori, who moved over to Holland. So just quick swap in and out, not much bother there. So we'll start off by talking about Jacare, move on to Kevin Holland, do a side-by-side of the skills on the attributes that I choose to assign, and then obviously we'll move on to my prediction at the end. Okay, starting off with Jacare, fantastic submission specialist, former Strikeforce middleweight champion, which carries a lot more weight than some of the others around. Obviously Strikeforce got absorbed into the UFC 7 or 8 years ago. We all remember they put on some good shows though. Okay, main thing about Jacare, submission specialist. He's not got the longest reach, which I think is going to be a problem in this fight. I'll talk about it in more depth a bit later on. But he's very experienced, fought some very high level guys, he's got great wins, he's beat Vitor Belfort, Chris Weidman, lots of other decent guys who names escape me now, obviously I'll try and save them. Okay, so let's talk about his last fight against Jan Blachowicz. He went up to light heavyweight for this one, not the only middleweight to recently go up. Excuse me. Obviously we had Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold, Thiago Santos. And of those four that I've just rattled off, only Thiago Santos has really done much up there. Jacare's come straight back down after one fight. That was his split decision loss to Blachowicz. If anyone saw this one, it was back end of last year. It could have gone either way. Not a very exciting fight at all. It was all about Jacare couldn't take him down, but he could hold him against the fence, which he probably did for probably 12-15 minutes of the whole 25 minutes fight, and I think he thought that was going to be enough to get the win for him. But out in the open, Blachowicz got the much better the striking, and again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think Jacare's short reach didn't help him at all. 72-inch reach for middleweight is very short, unfortunately. It's just how it is. You're normally seeing 76, 77. That's by normally the average around the middleweight division. Obviously you do get outliers either side, but Jacare's main game plan in this fight was to go to the ground. He couldn't get it to the ground, and I think he struggled with that. His striking was clean enough, but Blachowicz was definitely getting the better of striking. His leg kicks were good, but again, just with the striking overall for Jacare, he was too far out. He was very aware of Jan's reach, which is good fight IQ, I suppose, but he didn't want to get into the pocket because he knew he had the advantage on the ground, but he couldn't get into the ground either, so it wasn't a great performance either way. Okay, just a quick few notes on Jacare overall though, before we move on to Kevin Holland. As I keep saying, and I am getting really worried about these roster cuts, I've come up with an interesting theory that it's because they're too expensive. Sure, I'm not the first person to come up with that theory, but you look at who's gone. Yoel Romero, I think he was on 300 and 300. Jacare, I'm not 100%, but I'm assuming he's 150, something like that. Definitely over 100 and 100 per fight. And they'd much rather have contender series guys who are coming in on 10 and 10 contracts and just bumping up the numbers that way. So he's 2-3 in his last 5. He's not been knocked out in any of them though. They've all gone to decision. But if he loses this one, he'll move to 1-4 in his last 5. And yeah, Yoel Romero went on 1-4, and he's arguably a much more high-profile fighter than Jacare is. Alright, so let's talk about Kevin Holland now. Very busy fighter this year. This will be his 5th fight of the year. And bearing in mind his first fight was only in May. So really it's 5 fights in 7 months. Very active, very entertaining style. Biggest thing that's going to make the difference from him in this fight though, 81-inch reach. That's going to be deciding. That's going to play a big factor in this one for me. Very interesting striking style, I want to say. He gets introduced as a kung fu fighter. That's where his base is, and he takes a lot of the striking styles from that. Very unorthodox, not what a lot of people are used to. Alright, so let's just quick word on his last fight, 'cause it wasn't a long one. He fought Charlie Ontiveros on his UFC debut. Ontiveros is a welterweight. He took a short notice fight to get his UFC chance. He weighed in a few pounds under 185. Not surprising. I think Kevin Holland went into this one a -800 favourite. Wasn't a very long fight. Ontiveros, karate style fight, a very long stance, big long range kicks. Kevin Holland was having none of it, took him straight down. Very dominant on the ground, moved straight to side control. When we got back to the feet, he got a big, massive slam, which injured Ontiveros' neck. If anyone saw that, it's a very confusing stoppage. But as it panned out in the end, Ontiveros had damaged his neck when he got slammed. So there was that. Okay, his last proper fight, his last fight that went the distance was against Darren Stewart. He won that by split decision. I don't want to say it was an even fight, but it could have gone either way with the way the judges are these days. He started off very well. He got rocked a little bit early, but he bounced straight back from that. He was very dominant in the clinch. His striking was very... Again, with Kevin Holland, his range really helps him out. He's very long for the division. 6'3", he's not the tallest guy either. So, yeah, he's very impressive there. He's throwing some heavy leg kicks. And, yeah, he dominated with striking in the first 2 rounds. And Darren Stewart didn't want anything to do with him on the ground either. In the 3rd round, though, he looked like he was gassing a bit. But Stewart was as well, and I think that was just down to the high-paced nature of the fight. So he's got the 3 rounds in him without a problem. And it's also worth mentioning that he's been training for 5 rounds, because he was meant to be fighting Hermansson. And from the sound of it, his COVID diagnosis hasn't done him too much harm, and it shouldn't have affected him too much. I can't imagine it being an issue, his weight cut, because he's not the biggest middleweight. I imagine he weighs in on fight night 190, 195. Definitely under 200, though, I'd have thought. Alright, so we'll do a quick side-by-side with the attributes. We've got striking, grappling, fight IQ, chin and gas tank. I'll assign a winner in each attribute, and then we'll move on to my prediction. Okay, so striking, I'm going to give to Holland. Mainly, as I've been saying through the whole video, though, his reach is just going to be too much for Jacare to handle him with striking, I think. It's a 9-inch reach advantage. You don't see that very often. And Kevin Holland's very aware of it and uses it very well. And I feel like Jacare is very aware that he's got a short reach. And that's not his game plan anyway. He moves us nicely onto the grappling, which is Jacare's game plan. And he's got the advantage in this one as well. It's worth mentioning though that both fighters are BJJ black belts. Obviously Jacare probably the more accomplished of the two in the grappling. He's won a lot of grappling tournaments if you see his record. That's going way back 20 years. And yeah, but Kevin Holland, very busy off the bottom. Long legs, always throwing up triangles. Going for the arm bars, very busy. So I don't think Jacare is going to be as dominant as perhaps he thinks he might be. I think some other people think he might be. Fight IQ, I'm going to give this one to Jacare just because of his experience more than anything. He's been around a long time. Although he's not got that many more fights than Holland. I think it's only probably 10 more fights considering he's 13 years older. I think Jacare's got probably a more intelligent fighter. Kevin Holland, he goes for stuff he probably shouldn't. And I'm very concerned that Kevin Holland's going to want to show off his jiu-jitsu against someone as high level as Jacare. And there's a very good chance if he does want to play that game, he's going to get caught in something. Okay, so moving on to the chin check. I'm going for Kevin Holland in this one. I've seen him take a lot of big shots. He beat Joaquin Buckley by knockout this year. And we've all seen what Joaquin Buckley did in his 2 fights after he fought Kevin Holland. So very impressive chin, eating a lot of big shots quite recently. And the main reason I give it to him though is he's 13 years younger. Jacare's taken a lot of punishment over his years, and as we all know, fighters don't maintain the chin as we move on to that sort of age bracket that Jacare is now in. Alright, gas tank, the final one. Again, this is going to Holland. A couple of reasons. First of all, he's been preparing for a 5-round fight, and I appreciate this would have been his first 5-round fight, and Jacare's got a lot of 5-round experience. But Kevin Holland just looks unstoppable. He's very light on his feet, very high output, high level movement. Whereas Jacare is a much slower, more deliberate fighter, does his best work on the ground. But Jacare is also 13 years older and not in his prime anymore, unfortunately. Kevin Holland with a big win here will definitely move into the rankings, I think. I appreciate Jacare is not currently in the rankings, but there's a few fighters that are between 10 and 15 at middleweight who have been a bit inactive, let's say. Alright, so now moving on to what I think is going to happen this fight. I've gone for Kevin Holland by knockout. It's Kevin Holland by stoppage in general, I should say. It's coming in at 10-3, so plus 333. For both fighters to wins evens at 10-11, so minus 110, I think. It's either minus 110 or plus 110, forgive me, I do forget. So I feel like Kevin Holland's going to knock him out. I feel like he's going to push for the big statement. And as I've said in other places, I think if Kevin Holland wins this fight dominantly, especially if he gets the knockout in the first round or the second round, he should be fighter of the year. I appreciate it doesn't necessarily work like that, but 5 dominant wins in a calendar year, very impressive, don't see it very often. Alright, so that's going to wrap me up for today then. So my decision is Kevin Holland by knockout. I don't think Jacare's got anything on the feet that's going to cause Holland problems. I think his only chance is if he gets a submission, which I think Kevin Holland's good enough on the ground to stop that as well. Alright, so excuse me, sorry about my voice today, it's not going well. Okay, so you've been watching Octagon Control MMA. I've been Dan. Hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow.